Okay, we are live, everybody. So we are going to jump straight into a public hearing concerning a conditional use for Gateway Services, which is a pet crematorium that'll be located at 103 Technology Lane. I would note we do have a stenographer here this evening. She's going to be taking down everything that's said, so I just ask before anybody speaks, please just identify yourself for the record. Thank you. So at this time, is there a representative from the pet crematorium?
There are several representatives, Mr. President. My name's Jim Rumbaugh, and I'm with the Sampson Morris Group. With me this evening is Brian Sinan, Senior Vice President of Sampson Morris, and also an officer in Teutonia Investments. He's also the past fire chief of the Murrysville Fire Department. Also, Wes Long of Long & Long, attorney representing both entities. Misty Search from Florida. She's the Director of Real Estate Development for the corporation. Charlie Pedrick, Director of Facilities Maintenance, also here. All on for the public hearing, Gateway Service for a pet crematory. I would like to ask first that the stenographic record that we had before the Planning Commission, that's already done, be also added into the minutes or into your file tonight so that you can review that at your leisure also.
It's admitted into the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call Mr. Long, please.
If it please the council, my name, Mayor and Chief Administrator, my name is Wes Long. I am counsel for, as Mr. Rumbaugh indicated, Teutonian Investments Limited Partnership. The general partner is the Sampson Morris Group. I'm also representing Brandywine Green LLC, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Gateway Services, Inc. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to request that council consider granting a conditional use approval for Brandywine Green to open and operate a pet crematorium in property that's located up in the Technology Park, which is at the eastern end of the municipality, behind where the Spaghetti House used to be before it unfortunately burned. There is a handout that I have provided to everybody this evening that has some information in it that we may end up covering this evening, but please note there is a paper clip on the side of the handout that has 3 photographs of the area where the building is located. And I think that you'll see that it is in a perfect area for this council's consideration as a conditional use for a pet crematorium. I also would ask Mr. Nestico if he could, on the screen, we took drone photographs of the site. That is the location, that is the building that we're talking about. And you can see where it is situate. It is not surrounded by residential developments.
Stop me if going.
There's, I think, about 8 pictures, Mr. Nestico, if you could go through them. The zoning classification for this property is business. A pet crematorium is not anywhere permitted as either a permitted use or a conditional use in the Murrysville zoning code. The property, as I indicated, is business, but there is a section of the business zoning code that talks about comparable uses. So we believe that the pet crematorium is a comparable use to another permitted use in the business district, and that is a funeral home. Now, the code requires that council evaluate the type of development or use that would be a comparable use to make sure that it is not any more intrusive, offensive, et cetera, than other permitted or conditional uses that are specifically identified in the code. The zoning classification I said is B, but I also want to indicate that the tax map number is 49-21-00-0-055. And I would like to have the pamphlet that I've handed to everyone this evening for their review made part of the record as well.
Absolutely.
With that in mind, I would call Brian Sinan to provide an overview of the type of the facility where this use is being requested.
S-Y-N-A-N.
Do you have a business arrangement or involvement with Titonian Investments?
I do.
And what is that?
I'm a partner.
The Titonian Investment is the owner of the property we're talking about this evening?
That's correct.
And is Titonian Investments authorized Brandywine Green to proceed with the application for the conditional use?
They do.
Okay. Are you familiar with the property?
I am.
And where's the property located generally?
103 Technology Lane, Murrysville.
And generally, what part of the municipality is that in?
That would be the eastern side of the municipality, Emerson Penn Township.
If you're familiar with the surrounding uses, the uses surrounding this property,
They're all business or industrial type.
are there any residential uses in the area?
They're not.
Does this facility, is this situate on a public road or is it a private road?
The road's private in the park.
Is it a through road or is it a dead end?
Dead end.
Does the road have much traffic on it?
It does not.
How long has the current structure been in that location?
We've owned it since, I believe, 1997.
The Brandywine Green, are they proposing any alterations or changes to the footprint of the structure?
They're not.
Is there any pedestrian traffic in this particular area?
Very little, if any.
Do you know what the square footage of the building is?
Approximately 10,000.
Would Brandywine Green be the sole tenant of the building?
They would be.
To the best of your knowledge, Mr. Sinan, does the property and building currently comply with the business district performance standards?
It does.
And to the best of your knowledge, does the property and building currently comply with the business district area and bulk regulation table for e-zoning?
It does.
I don't have any more questions of Mr. Sinan. Would any members of council or staff have any questions of Mr. Sinan at this time?
Appears to be no questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Dice. Thank you. I would call Misty Search, please.
It's Misty, M-I-S-T-Y, S-I-R-C-H.
Misty, by whom are you employed?
Gateway Services.
And please tell council what the general type of business Gateway Services is engaged in.
We offer pet funeral services, cremation services. We provide memorial items for pet families along with grief support services for the pet families.
How many locations approximately does Gateway Services operate?
Approximately 200. We are the largest in the United States, and we also have locations in Canada.
Describe for council the type of services that Gateway offers. For example, number of funerals versus the number of cremations, et cetera.
Sure. The bulk of our business is cremations. We do offer funeral services. So let's say Fluffy passes away and your daughter's at college, she can come home and we'll offer an actual funeral service for your pet at the property. In addition, we do some special services. For instance, a couple weeks ago, a canine passed away from one of the police units, and it was amazing to see an honorary procession to the location and had a helicopter fly over. That's very unusual. That doesn't happen very often, but it is a service that we do provide to the local police services.
Where's the predominant portion of Gateway's business derived from?
98% of our Business Plus is from our business to business. So we go out to the local pet veterinary clinics and we pick up the pets on site there and bring them back to our location. About 2% is actual walk-in business. So very, very little traffic comes into our facility.
Now, you heard Mr. Simon testify that the footprint of the building will not change.
Correct.
Gateway Services is to be the only tenant.
Correct.
How much of the building, approximately 10,000 square feet in size, would be warehouse versus, for example, office space?
We are anticipating about 1,200 square feet would be office space and the rest would be warehouse in the back.
Now, will you perform interior modifications and improvements to this facility?
We will. We're working directly with the landlord on those improvements.
Mr. Nestico, if you would, do you have a facility in Las Vegas, for example?
We do.
Just to show council what type of facility this company operates, we do have a video of their facility in Las Vegas, Nevada. I believe this was an old transmission shop. Is that correct, Misty?
That is correct. As you can see from the video, we take tremendous pride in our facilities. Most of our employees are pet parents. Pets have become part of our family anymore, and it is extremely important to us that we treat them with the utmost respect when this time comes. We offer quite a few memorial services and memorial items to the pet parents as well when they pass. So that's why we're closely comparable to a human funeral home. You would find very similar services to what they offer.
The little video that the council members just viewed, will that be indicative of what you will
Very
have
much.
in Murrysville if the permit is granted?
Very much so, yes.
How many employees do you expect?
Approximately 5 to 7.
And you said you have very little walk-in customer business. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
If you do have a pet funeral, how many attendees do you normally expect?
Very few, 3 to 5 maybe family members that will come in at one time.
How do you receive the pets that you do cremate?
As I said, the majority of our business is business to business, so we have like Sprinter vans, for example, that will go to the veterinarian offices and pick up the pets and bring them back to our facility.
The facility that we're talking about this evening has a bay on the side. Will you use that bay and pull vehicles inside the building?
That is correct. So we have facilities across the United States that are in multi-tenant buildings, for instance. In several of those instances, our neighbors don't even know what we do because everything is enclosed within our 4 walls. So everything will take place within the facility.
Will you be requiring any signage?
We will, but nothing in addition to what the code allows for. We don't require anything larger than that.
Right. Just for the record, it's relevant considering the requirements of the Murrysville Code. The NAICS code for a crematorium is the same as the NAICS code for a funeral home, and that code is 7261. I don't have any further questions of Ms. Search. Does any member of council, the mayor, or staff have any questions?
Council? All right, no questions.
Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present.
Yes, it's Charles Pedrick, P-E-D-R-I-C-K.
Mr. Pedrick, are you employed by Gateway Services?
Yes, sir.
And what is your job function with Gateway Services?
I'm Director of Facilities and Machine Maintenance. So I have our machine maintenance team who does repairs on all the machines across the company, reports to me. Our facility project management team reports to me, and also our air permitting team reports to me.
What facilities do you oversee?
All of the facilities across the U.S. and Canada.
Please provide to council the general method by which a pet cremation is undertaken.
So like Misty said, we pick up these pets from the veterinarians, or if a family brings a pet directly to us, those pets are in cadaver bags. We provide the memorialization that is requested for each of those pets, and these machines that are utilized, they are self-contained, refractory bricked, and insulated machines. Everything is done within that, so that's I can go into really far in depth, but I think that should cover it.
Are the machines self-contained?
Yes, self-contained brick and insulation and metal.
Are there any chemicals or hazardous materials utilized in the process of the cremation?
No, sir.
When a pet comes into your facility and you receive the pet, what's the process? Do you immediately cremate the pet? Do you store the pet?
No, so we have we're gonna have a walk-in morgue, very similar to a regular funeral home. The pets, when they come back to the facility, they go into the morgue. We have a digital tracking system. Every pet has a tag with every step of the way. We scan it. We could tell you if that pet is, what shelf that pet is on, what machine that pet is cremated in, what vehicle it's in, everything. Everything is tracked. So pet goes into the morgue, and then we begin what's called special services, which would be a clay paw print, a hair clipping, ink print, depending on what the family wants. Once those services are completed, then we begin the cremation.
How many crematoriums are proposed for this location?
2 will be there immediately. We hope to have a third in the future.
What type of machine? Is there a particular brand name?
Yes, we're using Matthews International. We're going to put in IEB 56 and 2 IEB 56-4s.
Are these machines new?
Brand spanking new.
Are you required to obtain any permits from the DEP or any other air quality monitoring entities or agencies in connection with your operations?
Yes, so within the state, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection will file for an air permit. We can't do so at this time until we get permission for zoning. Once we provide that letter, then we'll have that a permit.
Does the DEP monitor any emissions from the facility?
Yes. So the air permit that we hope to receive, if given permission, it's they monitor us so the level is 20% opacity that we're not allowed to go above for over a 3-minute period within an hour, or hit 60% opacity at any time. So they do monitor it.
Are the machines self-monitoring? And tell council a little bit about that if they are.
Yes, so these machines will have what's called a continuous emissions monitoring system, or KEM system. Each machine will have it, and it monitors the opacity and the temperature of the machines.
If one were to stand outside of the facility, would one be able to see any smoke or emissions coming from the facility during the cremation process?
No, sir, there'd be a heat signature at most.
Are you audited by the DEP to make sure that the machines are compliant with the permit?
Yes.
Is that a random audit, unannounced audit, or do they schedule that audit?
So every state's different, and even within the state of Pennsylvania, there's different regions. So the regions can even be different. They could require quarterly reporting, quarterly emissions tests, which would be a Method 9 test. It's just whatever that permit states that we do, we have to do.
And whenever the DEP appears to review the efficiency or the performance of the machines, do they acquire the same monitoring data that the produces?
Yeah, so part of the reports that we have to provide will be the amount of pounds that have been cremated for, they may go back 3 months, they may go back for a year, but we have to keep track of that, and our digital data system reports all that.
The Murrysville zoning code uses the Ringelman standard. What's the maximum amount of emissions that is permitted under the Murrysville code, if you're familiar with that?
60%.
And are the
60% opacity.
and what opacity will the machines that you operate run at or operate at?
0 to 5%.
So it much cleaner than the Murrysville standards. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any water or other substance whatsoever emitted from the machines during the cremation process?
No.
Is there any odor?
No, sir.
Are there any fluids or anything of that sort?
No, sir.
The machines are totally self-contained, as I understand.
Correct.
Who maintains the machines? Do you have a crew, or you have a maintenance company, or how does that operate?
Yeah, so we'll have our local facility manager will have their own maintenance and PMI checks that they do on a lower level, and then we have our our machine maintenance team that'll come in and do a preventive maintenance inspection once a year on the machine, or a third party will come in and do it. Depends on how many are needed at a specific time.
You indicated that there's no odor and that there's no ashes or anything emitted,
No ashes,
and no smoke.
no smoke.
What do you do with the pet ashes if the family doesn't want them?
So with this facility, we're going to take them to our Grafton, Ohio site.
Tell the council a little bit about what is in Ohio, what kind of site is that?
We have a large facility there, has about 10 machines, cemetery, and we use the communal cremains are spread on that property at the cemetery.
And is that permitted by the state of Ohio?
Yes.
Is there anything that goes in the trash as a result of the cremation process?
No, sir.
Is there any vibration as a result of the cremation process?
No, sir.
Is the process radioactive?
No, sir.
I had to ask that because that's one of the things in your code. Okay. What type of pets will you offer cremation services to? I mean, for example, do you do horses or livestock or things of that sort?
We're going to do basic household pets from veterinarians. We will not do equine at this site.
Curiously, do you have equine services at any of your sites?
Yes, quite a few of them.
And where would those be located?
Grafton, Ohio, I think Westchester. Yeah,
Kentucky?
they're almost every state. Florida, Georgia, Texas, almost every state we have at least one site that does equine.
That's not going to happen at this site.
No.
Just in case council would be interested, do you accept road kills or anything of that sort from the Game Commission or?
Not at this site.
I don't have any further questions of Mr. Pedrick, does council, staff, or the mayor have any questions?
Yeah, I have a trivia question. All the cremations, are they all cost the same price? Or are they priced by the size of the animal or whatever?
Yes, sir. Generally, they're priced by the size of the pet.
Size of the pet?
The amount of time that the pet is cremated is based on how much it weighs and the size.
And the vaults, you sell the urns up there also?
Yes, sir.
So it'll be dependent on the urn and the size of the animal?
Correct. Yes, sir. So like, just kind of, I'm going to give you some information, but say a 5-pound pet is going to take less than 30 minutes to cremate, whereas a 50-pound pet is going to take more than an hour. So, you know, the amount of gas you use and everything, it's a cost difference.
I have a question. Have any of your furnace, I'm going to call it a furnace, I don't know the exact word for it, have they malfunctioned ever?
Yes, I mean,
What happens
we have
when that
close to
occurs?
700 machines. So what we have is we have a system where we call it code red. Code red just means that the team themselves, now this is minor malfunction to a large malfunction. If the machine just does not operate right, I get an email from that facility along with the machine maintenance manager, and it's what we call code red, anytime a machine is not operating correctly. And we get on the phone and we do troubleshooting, and we have a team member go out within like a week or two to fix it. Generally, over the phone, it's fixed right away. We have a lot of experience on the team. So yeah, I mean, there's not many malfunctions that can happen with these. It's typically a blower motor or something that we just need to get overnighted and replaced that a simple electrician can replace as well.
If the emissions go above the 20% that you said they were being monitored for, what happens? Does the machine shut down?
So there's the KIM system, there's an audible alarm on it. We'll have not only will we put a camera on all the stacks, looking up at every stack that we have so that we could see, but the machine itself lets you know. It has an audible alarm with anything over, it's either 5%, 10%, or 15%. It'll let you know that, hey, there's emissions coming out, and typically if that happens, it's due to operator error. A team member failed to press the right button.
Okay, thank you.
You operate at the 5% level? Is that where you set the
0
alarms?
to 0 to 5% is what the machines run at.
Do the machines have any fail-safe things like where they would automatically shut down or anything?
Yes.
Of that sort?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the machines monitor the gas that's utilized. If it doesn't have the proper gas or has too much gas, there's a lot of safeties built in with these machines. That's why these machines they're really good. Actually, the state of Pennsylvania prefers this brand. We wanted a different one, but we went with these because they're just the top company in the world, to be honest with you. But yeah, they have safety features all throughout. Anytime anything happens, they have a PLC inside. It'll give us a code. It'll tell us exactly what's wrong with the machine.
Is there enough gas service to the building existing to power the machines, or do you anticipate any infrastructure changes there?
Well, we are looking to do a gas upgrade. It's just a meter upgrade though.
Okay.
And PSI coming in.
Okay.
Machines have requirements. Sir.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from council? Okay, thank you, sir. Oh, sorry, Jamie.
I actually have one more. Since you have so many facilities, you said 200 at least, plus some in Canada, have you ever had any sort of disaster happen at any of your buildings, an explosion, anything like that?
No fire, no explosion. I had to do a life safety evaluation for Miramar, Florida, down in Miami area, and for the fire department. And it was like 89 pages long. And they did research crematory fires across the country. And out of like 20 of them, it was like the majority of them were all human-based, where the person was overweight, and that's what caused it. For pet crematories, he couldn't find it. He found a couple grease fires, but nothing related to, an actual fire from a machine. But we haven't had anything that's, catastrophic or anything.
Good.
Fort Myers, the hurricane hit us a little bit, but.
Okay. Good news. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I don't have any further evidence to present this evening. Again, I would just propose that a pet crematorium is a valid comparable use in the B zoning district to that of a funeral home, because they have the same NAICS code. And I would just request council's consideration in granting the conditional use permit. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, any final closing thoughts from council before we do public comment? Okay, yeah, Jim.
Just for purposes of background, my name is Jim Morrison. The applicant made the application to the municipality. It was reviewed by the zoning officer, found not to be a use identified in the zoning ordinance. The zoning officer referred him to the zoning hearing board. The zoning hearing board held a hearing, provided information to the applicant as to the requirements to meet 22031J
Yes.
of the ordinance, which is the comparable use section of the ordinance, and that's what was presented this evening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nestico. Oh, thanks. Mr. Nestico, anything to add?
Nothing to add to that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Long. With that, is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this pet crematorium specifically? Okay. It would appear not, so at this point, I would ask for a motion to close the record in regards to the pet crematorium. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're closed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Long. Okay, with that, we are going to roll right into our next conditional use hearing, and this is a public hearing, CU 5-22, concerning a construction of a passive mine acid treatment system. Is there a representative in regards to the...
I'll do it up front this time. Purposes of background, this is a conditional use application based on the major excavation as presented tonight.
All right, thank you, Jim.
I have a board. I believe if you set it here, then I'll be able to pick it up on the camera.
State your name, please.
My name's Charles Kane, K-A-N-E. Hold on 1 second. I'd like to make sure that this board is working here before I begin.
So you can talk, that's okay. No, you're okay. That way you can talk, no whisper. Everything good? Okay. Okay, yeah, we'll see if I can, you can let that.
Good evening. My name's Charles Kane. I'm with Civil and Environmental Consultants, and I'm here this evening representing Lions Run Watershed Association for their proposed passive acid mine treatment facility on Boxcar Town Road in Murrysville. The map that I have shown up here today provides the general location of the site. It's called out in black. There's a yellow solid hatched area that represents the approximate site boundary. There's also a line shown, a green line shown on the plan that generally shows how traffic would get to this facility during construction. The purpose for the conditional use here this evening is related to the overall earthwork associated with the site. Approximately 5,500 cubic yards of earthwork will occur on site, and they will also need to import approximately 5,800 cubic yards of limestone and other gravel materials in order to construct the facility. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Denicola to provide some additional information on the site itself.
My name is Timothy Denicola, D-E-N-I-C-O-L-A. I work with Civil and Environmental Consultants as well. What I can do is, using this exhibit, give a quick rundown of how this passive AMD treatment system operates. So the Lions Run watershed is impacted by acid, iron, and aluminum-rich water emanating from the Irwin Coal and Gas number 2 mine along Boxcar Town Road. Active mining ceased likely sometime in the 40s or 50s based on aerial imagery. There are collapsed portals into the mine entry, which are identified as problem areas by the Office of Surface Mining, Reclamation, and Enforcement. The problem area designation actually makes the site eligible for funding, puts it on the radar of these agencies, these federal and state agencies, as a target for restoration. There are 3 mine water discharges emanating from collapsed portals, collapsed entries on the site. They're represented by red dots on this exhibit. I'll point them out very quickly. We call this L4, L5, and L upwelling. They've been identified through over a decade of watershed research as being the major contributors of contaminant to the Lions Run watershed. What the Watershed Association is proposing is to capture the 3 mine water discharges and convey them via a 12-inch SDR 35 sewer-type plumbing system into a series of alkaline-generating limestone beds and settling ponds. So what we have here, let me see, I don't know exactly. Right there you go. Okay. I'm going to basically run through this site from higher to lower elevation. It's a gravity-driven passive site, and that's why they're referred to as passive. Once constructed, they do require some maintenance, but it's minimal compared to more active treatment approaches, which include automated treatment plants. From the upper reach, this is the parking staging area, which is going to be the main site access coming in off of Boxcar Town Road. The mine water itself will be conveyed to either Flushing Limestone Bed 1, Flushing Limestone Bed 2, or Flushing Limestone Bed 3. The limestone beds generate alkalinity. They neutralize the acid. Once the acid's neutralized, the metals that are dissolved in the water, iron and aluminum, they can no longer remain dissolved, so they precipitate in the limestone beds. Allowing precipitation with no flushing or no method to clean those solids over time reduces the effectiveness of the system. So for close to 20 years, 25 years, the flushing bed has been an accepted approach of mine water remediation. So periodically, on a weekly to monthly cycle, these beds would flush through subsurface plumbing. Flushing bed 2 will flush to settling pond 1. Settling pond 1 is sized to receive the full volume of the flush water. That allows it to peak at its top elevation, and then a perforated standpipe allows the water level to slowly reduce back to a base level. That slow reduction in water elevation and that loss of velocity within the water allows the particles to settle out and accumulate in the bottom of the settling pond. There wouldn't be a flush event again for a week to a month. By that point, the settling pond water levels dropped, the solids have been contained, and the limestone beds maintain functionality for a longer duration because of that flushing. The water in settling pond 1 will be alkaline or close to, referred to as circumneutral, at which point that circumneutral water will convey to a 3rd flushing limestone bed for final alkaline generation and final precipitation into settling pond 2. The 3rd limestone bed and 2nd settling pond are, I don't want to say they're not unnecessary, but by the time the water gets to them, it's nearly treated. This is just to facilitate any final polishing of the water that may be necessary to ensure full neutralization. The process of precipitating metal generates acid. So treating this actually, there's acid, we neutralize it, it generates more acid, we neutralize it again. By the time it leaves settling pond 2, it's close to pH 7 with no detectable concentrations of iron or aluminum dissolved in the water, but it can be suspended in the column like a fine silt, like total suspended solids you often hear about in the mining industry or stormwater permits. The percentage that remains suspended is negligible, a few percent, but just in case, we run it through a series of passive wetlands, heavily vegetated, native grasses, native shrubs, native trees. That physically removes those suspended solids through the surface contact, its absorption to the surface of that vegetation. After running through a series of existing and constructed wetlands, the treated water, now fully, completely treated alkaline mine water, discharges back into this unnamed tributary to Lions Run, and then down to Lions Run main stem, the proper Lions Run. Lions Run currently has very low ecological scores and poor water quality for close to 4 miles. By the 6-mile mark, it's returned to a functional, healthy ecological system. Our intention is to facilitate that same uplift on the upper 4 miles closer to the mine water treatment system.
Okay.
And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question. At what level of acid in that water it hits a mark that's bad, and where is this one at? Like, where are we starting at?
So the acid concentrations in this water is about 250 milligram per liter. Mine water acidity could range from 50 or 100 up to about 1,000. But when you're getting up into the 900 to 1,000 range, it's typically best to implement automated mine water treatment processes using treatment plants, chemical reagent, mixing basins, clarifiers, running the 3-phase power into the site. At 250, it's starting to climb above your base levels of 50 to 100, but it's still within an acceptable margin to treat passively, especially on a site that utilizes such a large footprint. I think we're pushing close to 4 acres of disturbance and 5,000 tons of limestone. It's very common for these passive sites around Westmoreland County and Appalachia to be 100-ton or 1,000-ton limestone beds. This is a 5,000-ton system. So we've oversized in anticipation of the higher acidity levels hovering around 250.
What? Did you say what you did with the precipitation, the precipitate?
Yes, the precipitate accumulates in the settling ponds, and realistically, we could probably get 20-plus years of storage in the settling ponds, but we're proposing 10-year maintenance cycles. The plumbing configuration allows mine water to be turned on and off to different treatment beds. That allows us to divert mine water from one to another and implement the flush plumbing to drain that bed, at which point it's completely drained with nothing coming in. We could do that to the settling ponds too, which allows a construction crew to get in for maintenance. Maintenance on a settling typically includes flushing the supernatant water, allowing the remaining solids to desiccate for a few weeks, and then going in with, well, there's multiple approaches. It can be excavated manually and landfilled on site, which is a very common practice in the mining community. It can be excavated manually and taken to municipal landfills. This is an inert material with no chemical, biological, or ecological hazard associated with it, which is why the PADEP does allow mining companies to landfill on site, because it is an inert material. It has the consistency of soil. It's basically like an iron-rich soil. Now, obviously a lot higher in iron, but it's inert and it won't have a negative impact on the surrounding ecosystem. And then a third option, which is really the most expensive, is you don't drain the settling pond. You use water trucks, you pump it out into the water trucks, and then it goes to a landfill or other appropriate disposal location as well.
And who typically would be responsible for that maintenance?
So the project owner is Lions Run Watershed Association, and part of the completion of this project will be to prepare an operations and maintenance plan, which lays out the framework for timelines and approach to flush the beds, clean out the settling ponds, and ensure continued functionality into perpetuity.
Are these tax parcels, like some of them are in Penn Township and some on Boxcar Town Road, are those private tax parcels or any of them municipal property? Who owns those?
The bulk of the treatment system is located on property owned by Lions Run Watershed Association. They had purchased a few years ago approximately 8 acres. There are some conveyances on private land, and the polishing wetlands are on private land, but all of those accesses have landowner contracts or right of entry agreements to allow construction and long-term operations and maintenance.
Is there any kind of security for the facility?
There's not like traditional security beyond potentially fencing. We have put fencing in as a line item cost in the construction estimate, but these are low targets for vandalism. There are hundreds of them across Appalachia, and there's no history I'm familiar with any extreme acts of vandalism or injury associated with them.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from council? Okay, hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I ask, is there any public comment in regards to the acid mine treatment system specifically? Okay. Seeing no public comment, if there's nothing further from council, I'd ask for a motion to close the record.
I'll make a motion to close the record for the Lions Run acid treatment system.
Thank you, Jason and Tony. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Record is closed. Thank you. Now, Mr. Nestico, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't need a stenographic record for the next presentation, right?
No, we do not.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. That brings whatever that was. Okay, that brings us to our next item, which is a Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority semi-annual consent decree progress report by Mr. Jim Rumbaugh.
Thank you very much, and thank goodness we're not having a stenographic record of this. First of all, I want to thank the council. I want to thank Mr. Morrison and Mr. Nestico for inviting me here and allowing me to make a brief presentation. I'd like to, instead of very, very brief, I'd like to go on a little bit about where we were when we started a little while ago, because maybe a lot of the residents don't know, maybe some of the people on council aren't familiar. A little bit of where we are today, and then a little bit of where we're going to go in the future. And if at any time you want to stop me and ask any questions, that would be wonderful. With me this evening is actually the manager of the Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority, Nicholas Kerr. He works for RDM. I'll get into that in a minute, but he's here to answer any questions that I can't. And you might be able to ask your council president too, because he's our liaison who attends the meetings also. Or Georgie. She's there all the time too. So back in, we're going to start back in 2019 in August, a consent decree from the Department of Environmental Resources was signed by the Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority, the Borough of Export, Penn Township Sewerage Authority, Monroeville Municipal Authority, Municipality of Murrysville, Penn Township, and the Municipality of Monroeville. All those entities had to sign a mutual consent decree because sewage from every one of these areas came into the sewage treatment plant that was being operated by the FTMSA. At that time, for an extended period of time before that, no one in any of those service areas could get one building permit. Municipality was totally shut down, and there was an extended period of time that was going to be with not one single house or one single structure being built anywhere. There were lawyers hired, agreements were made, agreements were signed. Now the task was, how are we going to fix the situation that was agreed to in all of those writings? In probably November or December, Mr. Morrison and your mayor asked me if I would serve on the FTMSA board. I currently chair the Plumboro Municipal Authority also, and I've been the chairman there for about the last 35 years. We were in a situation when we took that situation over about the same as Murrysville was about 2.5, 3 years ago. So they asked me if I would serve, and I said I would, but it was important that we had a board that was going to tackle the tough problems, make the tough decisions, and move forward so that Murrysville and all these surrounding municipalities could open back up again. The DEP wasn't confident that that was going to be able to happen in a short period of time. But we were fortunate enough to get 3 members of the board starting in January of 2020. It was myself, Mr. Maital, you all know, is the chairman of the Planning Commission here and also the founder and chief principal of the RF Maital Engineering. He is also the engineer for the Plum Borough Municipal Authority and has been for over 40 years. So he was very familiar with sewer and water issues. We were fortunate to get him on the board. The other gentleman we were able to get at that time is Bill Bell. He's the owner of Mountain Tyler Water. Very, very successful businessman, knows water treatments, understands unions, contracts, understands business. So we were delighted to be able to get him. That was the 3 members that we brought on immediately. So on a 5-member board, we could make whatever changes we had to do immediately. I'll just go in second. 2 years ago, we were able to get another gentleman, Michael DiGiulio, lives in Murrysville. He's the assistant manager of the Plum Borough Municipal Authority. For 30 years, he worked in the field installing sewer lines, pumps, worked at sewage treatment plants. Plum Borough was fortunate enough to get him out of the union and bring him into a management position. He's serving on the board. Last, about 6 or 7 months ago, we were able to get a mechanical engineer who worked for Westinghouse for the last 25 or 30 years, Mark Stickle. He's a wonderful gentleman, very knowledgeable about pumps and systems. So that's the board as we exist today. We want to thank, I really want to thank the council for appointing such good people on the board. It makes the job a lot easier. So go back to where we were. To about February or March of 2020, we got a new management company in, and that's RDM. RDM is the same group that manages the Westmoreland Water Authority, Municipal Authority. They operate several sewage treatment plants throughout the area. Johnstown, for one, they do the whole city of Johnstown. Very, very knowledgeable people. Brian Homan, the president, lives in Plum Borough. Mike Kukura, who lives in Murrysville, and Nicholas Kerr, who's with us. There's one other gentleman, Nicholas's brother, is the owners of the company now. They made a commitment to us. We made a commitment to them. They're doing a phenomenal job there. They got one of their key people, Nicholas, who works with us every day. He's at that sewage treatment plant every day, making sure that it's up and running. The people in the field are working properly. The manager that was there when we took over in 2020 is no longer there. We have a new management company in, and that's Nicholas, who is actually there every day. We have a new controller. 5 of the employees that were there at the time are either retired or are no longer there. So we have staff down there that is second to none anywhere. And they are working day and night to get this situation remedied so that we can get back to a normal situation here in Murrysville. That's the group. I'm very, very proud of them. They're doing an outstanding work. But as I said, that was where we were. We were shut down totally. People drive by the turnpike or go down and they see the big egg down there and they're wondering what the heck that's for. So we had a study made by Gibson Thomas also. We have a new engineer, Gibson Thomas. The day we were took over, in fact, the month before we were going to take over, the existing board was going to sign a contract with an engineering firm. I was not pleased with the engineering firm. I had worked with them on some of my developments. That's who they were going to do with a $3 million contract in December so that they would be able to sign the contract prior to the new board taking over. Mr. Morrison was instrumental in stopping that. So once again, I want to thank Mr. Morrison for what he did. He stopped it. 3 months later, we hired Gibson Thomas as our engineer, saving $1 million on the same contract. We signed the contract for $2 million instead of $3 million, which was going to be signed 3 months before that. And we also replaced the solicitor with, now we have Wes Long of Long and Long. So that's the group that we have down there. It's very good, but we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with that big egg. So I'm going to read a little bit of a study that we had Gibson Thomas so that everybody can understand a little bit of where we are with that. Everybody asks, what's that for, what we were doing? So in 2001, the Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority constructed and installed an anaerobic digestive system at an approximately $11 million. The system was implemented to treat high-strength industrial waste streams. Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority waste stream is not categorized by that. The only other one there is in the state of Pennsylvania is Hershey, PA, because a lot of the pollutions of chocolate is coming down into it. It's a heavy contaminant, and it needs a special type of a system. We didn't actually have that, but I'm going to say they had good intentions when they spent that type of money. The economics considered by the production of a high-grade sludge and methane gas. They were going to make gas in that, and they were either going to be not have to purchase gas anymore in their system that they used, or be able to sell methane to a public utility. Also, they were going to get high-quality sludge, and with that, they were going to do like a malorganite. They were going to try to sell it to fertilizer companies to be able to use it, bag it, sell it on the open market. In reality, those economic benefits never came to fruition. In addition, sludge disposal can also be land applied to farm fields or simply just taken to the local dump. So although the intentions were probably good, nothing that they wanted to accomplish was able to be accomplished. The existing anaerobic system is now 22 years old. It has experienced a number of problems. Due to its age, there is a significant amount of repairs required, leaks and previous insufficient repairs, which was probably the biggest problem that we have in all of the FTMSA. Any repairs made over the past 25 to 30 years with any of the system, not only at the sewage treatment plant, but none in the field either. And we're going to just bump it down the road, and maybe the next group will do it, or the next group will do it. In fact, it was never done. So we have that problem there. Leaks in previous efficient repairs and dangerous conditions for the employees near the process equipment. It's also noted that the parts in the system are obsolete, and we're not able to even get any of the parts to repair it if we wanted to repair it. So now we have two different situations that we can do. We can either construct a new anaerobic treatment process or construct and install an aerobic. Anaerobic means it's going to be enclosed, it's going to be in that shell, and no air is going to get to it. The other one is similar to the Holiday Park sewage treatment plant. No odor or anything else, but it's open to the air, and the bugs and the germs that create the sludge are open to the air. But we had a study made, and I'll just cut to the sludge, to the bottom. Option 1, replacing the existing anaerobic treatment process, is $16 million. 2, convert the anaerobic to an aerobic treatment process by installing new components using the egg-shaped digester as a holding tank if we needed it. If we had too much flow at any one time, we could put it into that tank, hold it there temporarily, and then release it into the system. This is estimated to cost $2.5 million. So we have authorized the engineers, Gibson Thomas, to design it, which is going to be easily done, and apply for a permit to be able to do that. We expect to be able to get that within a year to year and a half with the permit, and then be able to construct that. So we are delighted to say that what we had the last thing that I was going to say, but I'm going to say it now. Headlines in bold print. Because of all the work that we're doing in the field, which I'm going to mention, due to the decrease in flow, a previously considered plant expansion project is no longer necessary with a savings of over $20 million. So what they had anticipated, the old board, and what DEP anticipated we were going to do going in initially was to have to expand the plant because there's too much water getting into it. We would have to not only change it over to an aerobic system, we would have to enlarge the footprint of it to be able to treat basically groundwater, because it's not the sewage, it's the groundwater. So that's where we're going to go. Let me just briefly say what we've done recently. Physically located, inspected, and mapped 4,500 manholes, physically, every one of them. Camera televised 800,000 linear feet of sewer line. We had these sewer lines, you can imagine having this job, sit there, then you had to watch 8,000 feet of sewer line camera work to be able to pinpoint all the deficiencies on all those lines and then classify them as a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 deficiencies. Under the consent order, 4 and 5 deficiencies have to be fixed within the next couple years, 4s and 5s. 1s, 2s, and 3s are minor. We can either fix them or not, depending on what we're doing. If we're in the field and there's a 4 or 5, which we're fixing, and there's a 3 right near it, we're going to fix that 3. So we're in the process of doing that. The system is currently known to have 300 plus 5 defects, level 5 defects, which were the most serious. Smoke and dye tested 6,750 homes. That's an order that we have to have done. We have 25% more of the system to do, which will be done next year. Another thing we had to do was install flow meters throughout the municipality and where we make contact with other municipalities to determine where the flow is coming from so that we could create a model of how we can repair that and reduce the flow from one municipality or from one service area. So we rented 83 flow meters, and they were in the system for 10 months. Build and construct a computer-generated hydraulic model of the entire FTMSA system. The model allows FTMSA to determine, as I said, where all the flows are coming to, and be able to determine if we have to upside lines, fix lines, put new manholes in, and be able to evaluate each particular change that we're recommending to doing at the time, all computer generated. Some of the costs: manhole repairs to date, $337,000. Interceptor line repairs. These are the main lines that we're getting down 22 or down old 22, down through the stream where the walking trail is, trying to line those rather than digging them up in the bad areas. $1,200,000 worth of work. Manhole lining, $1,062,000. Collection lining, $535,000. We're in the process of Mystic Hill sewer replacement. That system is in such bad repair that we would die with 1,000 paper cuts. Whenever we fix one, there's another one, and so we're replacing the whole system up there. That's $1,265,000. Main pump station. The main pump station down where the trucking terminal was, or down in that area, it was almost inoperable. It's $2,500,000 to upgrade that system, all new pumps, all new lining, and get everything done up to speed, and a brand new generator to operate it if in fact the electricity was down. The generator was not sufficient to operate the pumps to be able to get the water, the sewage to the sewage treatment plant, and we had constant overflows. Projects that we are going to do in we're going to bid is the sewer line and pipe bursting in Rustic Ridge. We're out there monitoring that today. We're cameraing that entire system to determine where all the laterals are. Rustic Ridge manhole lining. Should be noted that our own staff, which was never done before, has repaired in-house 80 of the level 4 and 5 deficiencies in-house with the work of Nick and the crew that he has there. And again, I can't say enough about every one of the employees. They're doing a phenomenal job out in the field. FTMSA is on time or ahead of schedule on every single task required by the DEP consent order. Due to the aggressive approach the FTMSA staff to remove infiltration, the system has experienced a significant reduction of flow. Due to the decrease in flow, the authority will remeter the system and may be determined that previously considered large-scale facilities are not going to be needed. So that's pretty much where we are, what we're doing. I just wanted to make one other statement. Right now, the FTMSA, again, they were probably at $25 or $30 back in the day, maybe $35 for a sewer rate. I don't even remember. But Murrysville today is at $55. I'm going to round these off. Monroeville is at $75. They're in the system. Penn Township is $60. Delmont is $77. Salem Township is $65. Export is $60. So although we have borrowed, we all to get this in operating conditions, probably not going to be enough. In fact, I know it's not going to be enough, but even our rates are still only $55. Now, I know it's higher than it was, but it's still only $55, and it's cheaper than every one of the ones that I just mentioned that are part of this system. So that's what I wanted to say. I know I took way too long, but I hope that you have a better understanding of where we are and what we're doing. Again, I thank the council for continued support that we have. When we ask you to back a bond, you do. I can't thank Jim enough for all the support that he's given us over the year. I know that he's going to be here, I don't know how much longer, hopefully a lot longer. You knew Michael Nestico, I appreciate all the work he's doing with me too. So if you have any questions, we're here and the manager's here.
Council?
Yeah, I have two questions for you, Mr. Rumbaugh.
Yes.
Can you remind me, first of all, of the timeline that we had to have all of the work completed and to be compliant?
I'm going to say timeline was probably in excess of 6 years we have, because a lot of them we have to remonitor, and then after we get our new permit from the DEP, that's going to be the question. We have about 2.5 years after that to complete that. If we can get it within a timely fashion, it's going to be 6 years. Am I about right, Nick? 2026. Okay, so we started in 2000, so I wasn't too far off. And we should be there with the DEP if we can get the permits from the DEP.
So assuming that we will get there because you guys are doing an amazing job and ahead of pace or on time, do you anticipate any changes to what we have to do or what we'll require from residents and business owners in the municipality once we have that permit? For example, we used to require, I think, the inspections for home sales, but maybe not refinancing, and now we've implemented that, for example.
That's going to become statewide, so that's not going to go away by anybody. In fact, we are doing one other thing beyond that. If we're at cammering, like Rustic Ridge or any of those areas right now, we've done Mystic Hills and a lot of different areas. While we're cammering to find out the location, if we have what the technical term is gusher, or a similar amount of water coming from a lateral into our system, we can ask the people, are you running water? Is it going down? And if not, we're requesting and requiring those people to be able to fix their lateral, find out where the leak is. They've got a camera. If they can fix the leak from where it's going in, if it's an illegal tie-in, whatever that is, that's going to be done in addition to both the resale and the refinance. And the other thing we're doing, we're going to become very, very serious about the grease traps. So any business or any church that has fish fries or any of those type of things, that is doing a horrible job with the sewer lines and clogging them up and backing, sewage into people's homes. So we're going to make sure that that's monitored on at least an annual basis.
So it sounds like not only will requirements for residents and business owners not decrease, they'll actually likely increase to protect the system going forward.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The areas that you said like that need total replacement, Rustic Ridge or areas like that, are you guys when it has to be completely replaced, are you lining those pipes? Or are you
We're digging them all up
and putting new pipe?
Putting new lines in.
Okay.
I mean, if there's a long stretch, if it's 200 or 300 feet that we can do it easily from manhole to manhole, we'll do that. But we have all the laterals in between from the houses going off, so we're replacing a lot of them. Rustic Ridge, I'm not so sure we're doing that entire system.
Right.
Nick, we're just lining the lines up in Rustic Ridge?
Yes, sir. So we're doing a combination of the techniques based on...
Come on up here.
We're utilizing a combination of techniques based on the severity of the deficiencies. Traditional trench and replace is only used when there are so many 4 and 5 defects on a manhole to manhole run that you can't advance a rod for bursting and you can't get the equipment in that does the lining, either the resin, fiberglass resin, or the UV treated.
Sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Whenever property owners find that they have to repair the system or repair their portion of it, is there any relief to be found or sources of funding for property owners if it's found that that's an extreme financial burden for some reason?
Not through us. We will help them depending on their income. You can go to the county, but I mean, we're in 7 different municipalities trying to do the same type of situation. Very, very difficult. So no, we can't offer that.
But do you point homeowners to county?
Yeah, we can do that.
And stuff?
Yeah, we will. We actually do that. And we've done that. Puckety Creek, for example, we had to do that system down there in Puckety Creek. We brought the county in. We helped them fill out the forms. We sat down with every single property owner down there. We helped them. That's one place that we actually did help finance because it was $20,000 a tap pretty much down there, and they couldn't afford it. So.
Thank you.
That was the only thing that we did. That was a special water district.
So what is the cost for a homeowner, typical cost for a homeowner to repair one of the laterals?
Well, Nick, you'd have to tell me, if they can just line it and don't have to dig it up again, it could be $4,000 or $5,000. You have to replace the whole thing. Do we have an estimate from a typical one? $5,000, $4,000?
I would say the average total replacement, physical replacement, is probably between $8,000 and $16,000, and then other techniques are less expensive.
$16,000 would be a long lateral. It's expensive. Hopefully, we're doing it when they're either refinancing or when they are selling, so that they can either include that or not. They can get the sewer test done prior to it so that they know if they have to finance it rather than the sale's already gone through and now they have to do it and spend some of it. They can ask us to do it. They pay for the fee. They'll know ahead of time before they actually sell it if they have to replace it or not.
Jim, now, they're in Rustic Ridge now, which is my neighborhood.
Correct.
And I have a couple experiences with the people that had it done. The one neighbor paid around $8,000.
Correct.
The other neighbor paid $20,000 because they had to dig up the whole garage also. Take all the cement out, and so it all depends where the breaks are, or where the clogs are, or something like that. Another thing is that a lot of people have insurance through the gas company and the electric company and the water company. And supposedly, if you need your sewer system done, they're going to allocate so much money toward that to help pay for that system.
Yeah, there are insurance policies that you can get for it. We're not familiar with it. We don't either ask you to get it or tell you to get it, whatever. That's all a personal preference.
Yeah, it goes right.
You're right,
it goes
Tony.
right on your gas bill or your
Right.
electric bill, like $4 or $5 a month.
Yep.
And a lot of people have been paying that for years, so
Correct.
it helps almost pay for the whole system.
Wow. Anything else?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you always for the
fantastic.
continued support. We appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And thanks, Nick, also.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah.
Nick. Okay, everyone. With that, we are now getting into our regular voting meeting agenda. So at this time, I will call the meeting to order, and I will ask Rodale for a roll call, please.
Mr. McKenna?
Here.
Mr. Stepanovich? Dr. Lee Corns?
Here.
Mr. Dice?
Here.
Mr. Spadero?
Here.
Mrs. Lane?
Here.
Mr. Lemak?
Here.
Mayor Simon?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Nestico, do we have any unlisted amendments this evening?
Not this evening.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our consent calendar items. We only have the minutes this evening. Do we have any questions or concerns about the minutes? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion, please?
I can make a motion to approve the consent calendar items.
Second.
Let's go Jamie and Jamie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Comments by the mayor. Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. Dice. Got some slides. Nestico, there we go. To start off with is the Gearhard Farms is having their 23rd annual corn maze. It's open weekends through October 30th at the farm, 5909 Salzburg Road, Murrysville. There are group rates available, and if you have questions, their phone number is 412-302-0739. Next slide is Monday Night Cornhole. It's being played at the Murrysville Community Center, 3091 Carson Avenue, Murrysville. If you have questions, call our Recreation Department here, extension 115. It's weekly, September 12th to November 14th, $10 per person, cash or checks. Registration at 6, games at 6:30. Blind draw, bring your team, or just come for fun. Everyone is welcome. I think it's been a good, successful program so far. Next is it's time of year. As you see, the leaves are changing. I was out in the body, drove deer yesterday. They're really changed up there. But curbside leaf collection program. Republic Services, the municipality of Murrysville's trash recycling hauler, will conduct municipal-wide sweeps to collect leaves and yard waste. To schedule a pickup on one of these collection dates listed below, please fill out the curbside leaf collection program form. Remember, you have to fill out the form and submit it, or they will not stop at your house just because you have the bags out. There's a 20-bag limit each collection date. The date to sign up for each date is the Thursday before the pickup date. The dates are Saturday, October 15th, Saturday, November 12th, and Saturday, December 3rd. Trick or treat will be held on Halloween, which is Monday, October 31st. We switched it to 5 to 7 a few years back, and I've heard nothing but positive comments out there, especially for the real small ones, because that makes it a school night, so they're able to get back home a little earlier and take care of business to be put to bed. Please turn off your porch lights if you do not want to participate. Have fun and drive safely. The Murrysville Recreation Department and Murrysville Community Library present Foot Locker Outreach Program, World War II. Soldiers and Sailors Foot Locker Outreach. Program goal is to educate people of all ages. This presentation will focus on a soldier's life in World War II, including what they wore, equipment carried, and experiences they went through. Artifacts from the museum's collection will be highlighted, as well as stories about sacrifices of local veterans. You need to register at MurrysvillePARecreation.com. It's free. It's Tuesday, November 1st, 6 p.m. here in the Murrysville Municipal Building Council Chambers. Another Parks and Recreation, the library presents Darren Miller. Darren's a Franklin Regional graduate. He became the first athlete to complete the Ocean 7 Marathon, swims across 5 continents on first attempts to benefit the Children's Hospital Foundation. He is excited to share these life-changing experiences and his mindset around achieving the impossible. Join us for a wonderful evening of adventure. We will be collecting donations to the local nonprofit SLAM to assist with repairing the handicap access for fishing across Sloan Creek. It's Tuesday, November 16th at 6:30, and Darren's quite a young man, I can tell you that. It will probably be a very interesting evening. That ends the slides, but I have a couple proclamations. One I'm a week late on and one I'm a week early on, so we'll call it even. But I'll skip the whereas, but I will read the proclamation. Constitution Week, September 17th to the 23rd, 2022, proclamation number 222-22. September 17, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Constitution Week, September 17 to 23, was signed into public law on August 2, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Constitution shall be celebrated to commemorate its history and importance to our nation and community. Citizens should be reminded of the responsibility to protect and defend the Constitution, America's most important document to maintain their liberties, freedom, and inalienable rights. I, Regis J. Simon, Mayor of Murrysville, in concert with the Council of the Municipality of Murrysville, recognize September 7th to the 23rd, 2022 as Constitution Week and urge residents to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the municipality of Murrysville to be affixed this 5th day of October in the year of our Lord 2022. The other proclamation is for Meals on Wheels 50th anniversary, October 12, 2022. Proclamation number 221-22. The Murrysville Meals on Wheels program has faithfully served the community for more than 50 years at the First Presbyterian Church. And beginning in 1972, just 8 clients were served twice weekly, and today the program serves 50 clients 4 times weekly. The volunteers who keep the wheels rolling work tirelessly to ensure those unable to shop or cook for themselves are still provided hot meals. These volunteers should be recognized for their devoted service to the clients and community. Without Meals on Wheels, its clients would go without hot meals and a smiling face to check on them at home. The Meals on Wheels program is sustained by individual and organizational donations, as no state or federal aid is received. I, Regis J. Simon, Mayor of Murrysville, in concert with the Council of the Municipality of Murrysville, recognize October 5th, 2022 as Meals on Wheels Day, commending the volunteers and contributors for 50 years of dedicated service to the community. I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the municipality of Murrysville to be affixed this 5th day of October in the year of our Lord 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. That brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator, Mr. Nestico.
Sure, just one brief comment. The Volunteer Fire Relief Association distributions were made by the end of September. Each department was distributed $52,166 as their equal 1/3 share in the VFRA funding provided by the state. So that's all comments this month.
Awesome, thank you. That brings us to community input. Any member of the community like to make a comment? All right, seeing none, we will move on to liaison comments and committee reports. Let's start down on this end. Jason?
The library meets in 2 weeks.
Okay, wonderful. Tony?
No meeting for Medic 1 till the end of the month.
Okay. Jamie?
Our next meeting is November 10th, but we are still not doing great with our pension fund, which is no shock. Thankfully, we were very well funded prior to all of this decline. Through August, we had about a year-to-date return of negative 12%, and with a dip in the S&P 500, looks like we're probably around a 24% year-to-date decline from September.
It's just about everybody, but yeah, not great. Jamie?
The school board met this past Monday, the 19th. No, nothing of mutual concern, but Dr. Prano did give a presentation on the 3-year comprehensive plan and gave recognition to Mayor Simon for being on the steering committee for that.
Wonderful.
So I just wanted to mention that.
Parks and Recreation meets next Tuesday, but keep in mind the Trick or Treat on the Trail is one of the big events coming up this month, Saturday, October 29th from 12 to 2. Pre-registration it went live Monday the 3rd at 10 a.m. And they will be shutting off. The cutoff date for registration is October 24th, and there will be no exceptions to that, so make sure you get signed up before then.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mac. FTMSA meets at the end of the month, and we already got a really great presentation from them. So that brings us to our workshop items. The only one we have listed is a discussion of the Amphitheater project. Lead us off.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have a brief presentation here to present. I also printed out copies for council in case I click too quickly or you'd like to focus on any particular numbers. Obviously, the heart of this presentation will focus on some of the financials. I added in a few other elements about the amphitheater as well. I learned that we have an older version of PowerPoint running on this computer as compared to what I have back in the office. So if anything went out of whack in the presentation slideshow, I apologize for that in advance. I noticed a few things. I tried to correct them before the meeting, but some of the numbers and things were sliding around. Also, not too many pictures. Obviously, this is a work in progress, so you'll see a lot of repetitive pictures of the site itself. But council can feel free to stop me at any time if there are any questions. I know this is the 4th presentation you've had this evening, so while I'll try to be succinct and answer questions, I also don't want to torment anybody too terribly. So I'll try to move through this and just stop me as you wish. We also have Mr. Morrison and Mr. Payano here who can help answer some questions. I think 4 months in, I have a pretty good handle of things, but certainly not a full grasp of the full project. So again, as you know, the amphitheater is going to sit on a 4.5 acre site in the community park. It was recommended through the Municipal Parks Rec and Open Space Plan in 2011, and again in the MCP Phase 3 Master Plan. It's going to serve Murrysville and the surrounding communities. This will be closest amphitheater or outdoor venue outside of the Irwin Park one, which is 11 miles away. So this is something that's obviously not taking place in our community now, and we're hoping that once it comes to fruition, it can not only benefit our community, but even the surrounding ones, as the next closest one is a little bit outside of town. We anticipate that there will be around 20 events even in the first year of its operation. And for those that aren't familiar, or for the public at home, you can see a little bit of the engineered drawings here. This would contemplate coming in a second entrance into the community park. It would circle around and have handicap parking, as well as some general parking areas visible here, and as well as outside of this drawing up to the left-hand side of the drawing, more towards the splash pad and playground area of the park. There will be a food truck gravel area, 90 by 135 foot area that will allow and accommodate those amenities for any of the guests or visitors to any amphitheater event. You can see the amphitheater is the small little area here in orange with much larger seating areas. So you can see how substantial the areas surrounding the amphitheater are. It'll be a big venue for our community, allow us to host a variety of different types of events in this location. Getting straight down to business with the financial side of things are the project costs. I have it broken down several ways in here, so there may be some duplication, but certainly we can step through it so that everybody has a full understanding. The overall project cost, as you are aware, has gone up over the last few years, rising costs in supplies, materials, as well as equipment and everything else. Brings the total cost as to an estimated $1.8 million, you can see on the bottom right there. The contracted numbers that you see in the left-hand column indicate what we would have to either purchase by way of materials, supplies, or services, and contract that work out. And again, you can see the 7 main categories there on the far left-hand side with earthwork, erosion control, storm and sanitary sewers, and other utilities. The buildings at the top would be the amphitheater itself, the restroom, and the storage facility. And I'll get into a little bit of a breakdown here as we step through. And then on the bottom would be the paving of those various areas. The local dollar figures that you see in the middle there are the estimated figures for what our own public works, our own staff would be able to complete. That includes not only the labor, but also the supplies and materials they would be using. That all, as you can see, to the $1.8 million, which is a larger number than I think council was presented a couple years ago when things started to first come to fruition with this project. As we move on here, of the contracted services, you can see a breakdown of some of the more substantial items in each category. Again, this is all printed out for you there in a spreadsheet, so you don't have to absorb all this right at this moment. But you can see in each category there are some substantial items. As I mentioned, the buildings on the top left portion there are some of the larger costs for those facilities themselves. The earthwork and erosion control are smaller dollar amounts, but they obviously add up to the cost you see there. The storm sewer and the utilities are some of the more substantial costs of the project. And again, we'll get into some of the work that's already been done in this location. But the sewer and storm systems, the electrical, and bringing those over into this area of the park are going to be some of the higher costs as we work our way through the project. The local services are what we would envision Public Works being able to contribute to, whether that's some or all of these items. They include, again, the storm and sewer system installations and different aspects of that. Some of the paving is possible in our Public Works Department. That could also be contracted out depending on costs at the time and where we stand financially in the project. And then some of the earthwork and erosion control, they would be able to grade some of these areas and provide the necessary erosion controls and compost or silt sock fencing, things like that, that will help control the sediment at the site location itself. As we take all of those items and break them out, thus far, you'll see in the top half of those financial numbers there, the items that are either completed or in progress. And the total dollar amount there, $316,862, is roughly the amount of work that's been completed at the site already. That accounts for just under 20% of the full project cost. So the project itself, almost 1/5 of the way completed at this time. A lot of that work has been done by Public Works over the last year to 2 years. That includes running water lines, starting to lay out where the sewer and stormwater facilities will be located, some of the initial site grading and preparation, and that's what is included in that figure. So we've made some substantial progress there. Under the miscellaneous and utilities section there in that top part, we have some of the supplies ready and available. For instance, some of the electrical conduit that's pretty expensive. Public Works went out and purchased those items within the last 2 years and tried to make those purchases before the prices on those items increased too much. So there was a savings there. I can't be specific as to what that was right offhand, but they made some purchases and have the supplies in stock in order to prevent those inflationary price increase being passed down to the overall project cost. On the bottom there are the remaining portions of the project that still need to be completed. Again, we could certainly break down all the numbers, and I have that, again, in your spreadsheets as well if you want to double back and look at some of those items. But around $1.5 million left for the remaining parts of this project. That includes both the work that we would have to contract out and items that we would have to purchase, as well as our local service contribution, our in-kind services from the Public Works staff itself. Now we'll maybe take a step into some of the funding sources so you can get an idea of where the funds are coming from for this project. As council is aware by now, we have 2 grants from the DCNR. One was awarded a couple years ago, $299,000. And just recently, as we had mentioned a few meetings ago, the $323,000 grant totaling $623,000 in total grant funding from the state. There is a local match for that. We have that funding set aside, and I'll discuss later how that is incorporated as part of our capital budget plan. So we can meet that match, and we have that money prepared to be set aside for that. In conjunction, and I guess it bears mentioning with the $1.8 million project, is essentially 1/3 of the funding is coming from the state. So obviously that's a big portion when you have over 30% of the funding toward a substantial project like this coming in from state funds. The Parks Foundation right now is sitting on $70,000 that were contributed to that fund from Olympus Energy, Dominion, and even one individual personal donation from a local resident. Berkshire Hathaway, BHE, GT&S provided a $10,000 contribution as well toward this project. And the $255,000 number that you see in in-kind services provided by Public Works, again, that's what I had mentioned already, that's already been provided to this project from the work they have done. So those are what I would label as maybe confirmed funding sources or work that's been completed on the project already. Outside of that, we will have to, of course, piece together the remaining funds that to comprise the rest of the project, and that has been, as I said, planned out through our capital reserve. So again, a restatement there on the top portion, $703,000 already confirmed toward this project. This does not include the in-kind services. I listed that below under the Murrysville funding sources. $623,000 would be the matching grant amount that would come out of our capital reserve. That was planned for and adopted by council last month in the capital reserve plan. The $219,000 of in-kind services and contributions from Public Works. I have a note there on the bottom. Over the 5-year life of the capital plan, there is around $813,000 set aside over the course of that 5-year plan. So there are adequate funds that we've anticipated or prepared for through that capital program. The site itself, nice picture there of the blank facility, but on the right-hand side you'll see we also submitted for a grant last month. Mr. Morrison completed a grant application for CDBG funds, and that would be for the restroom facility at the project at the site. So that is a $188,000 grant application that was submitted. We'll see what the result of that is. That would again help lower those costs that you saw in the previous slide where we plan to allocate from our reserve funding.
So to clarify, Mr. Nestico, should we get that $188,050 from the Community Development Grant block grant, we would use that to reduce the $842,348 roughly that we anticipate?
That would be correct. I would try to step back 2 slides. So yes, that would, and the part I'm circling here, the lower portion, that would just simply come out of the Murrysville funding sources. So essentially out of the capital reserve funding that we plan to use on this project, it would help offset some of that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm also looking at the little footnote you have on the slide about the total capital reserve funding that's there.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, we're looking to use a very large portion of that and hoping to reduce it.
That's correct. So just so that I can be clear, the $813,000 is contemplated in the 5-year plan of the capital reserve program. It doesn't look like we'll need to use the full $813,000 over the 5-year plan. It looks like we're more in the range of the $623,000, but we could go up to that $813,000 if we want to use the full capacity that was planned for in the plan. So the idea is to try to offset whether it is the full amount, the 813, or a lower amount, 623 or less, the idea is to continue to try to offset those numbers in any way we can. And that's what brings us to, again, this grant application. That would offset the use of any of those funds. So whether it's the full 813 that's contemplated or a lesser amount, this would help to offset that.
Does that grant go specifically to those bathroom facilities?
It would. Some of the criteria for receiving this grant itself would be that one of the uses are for handicap accessibility features, and the restroom would qualify for that. Just to touch on some of the work completed by our Public Works Department, as I mentioned, it's roughly 17% complete, or $316,000 of the estimated project cost has been completed thus far. And that includes, as you can see down here, some of the earthwork, erosion control, and some of the miscellaneous utilities. That was the electric conduit that's sitting in stock at the Public Works garage. And then the local services themselves, the actual work, doing the earthwork, the erosion control, and installing the sanitary sewers and some of the utility lines. That would be primarily the water lines. So that is what comprises a lot of the work that has been completed thus far by our Public Works staff. Work remaining on the project, again, I'm being a little bit redundant, so I apologize for that, but we went through these items earlier. The contracted services and the local services, and again, each of the different primary items contemplated in each of those are detailed here, so I won't restate the numbers, but as you can see, again, it's the close to $1.5 million of remaining items. And again, another little slide here that kind of breaks that down. I think that's a little bit of duplication, so I apologize for that. A little bit of supplemental information to try to round this out, and then certainly we can answer questions. There are additional opportunities to offset some of our costs there. This is not all-inclusive, but as I mentioned, the restroom grant application that was submitted would help to offset some of those costs and using some of the reserve funds that are set aside. There are also opportunities through federal infrastructure funds or even PA small water and sewer grants that we may be able to obtain to help offset some of the costs there for the remaining work. There's even been thought of maybe incorporating some sort of solar arrays on the buildings themselves. We're going to look into that. There's certainly no guarantee, and that may not fit into the project itself. But at this point, we're trying to identify sources of funding that the state is offering or pushing or promoting, and then maybe we can jump on that in conjunction with this project. And lastly, if you saw the article in the newspaper, I believe it was even today or yesterday, with the gaming funds being distributed to some of the local municipalities, we will probably look next year to try to tap into some of those funds, again, whether it be for this project or something else in the municipality. But certainly, any way to obtain funding helps offset costs overall, and that's the goal that we try to achieve here. So those are just some of the ways that we're going to look to try to offset costs. No guarantees with any of those yet, but we're trying to explore all options as we move through the project. Just a brief timeline. This may not be completely accurate, but as you can see, things started to kick into gear here this year in 2022, and that's when Public Works was able to get some of the work done at the project. We also applied for funding and did cost studies in the earlier part of the year. This month here, later this month, after they round out a few projects they're currently working on, their plan is to get back over to the site to continue working on some of the utilities. Carrying into next year, in the late winter, early spring, they're going to round out some of the utility work there with the water lines and storm systems. A rough timeline would have us continuing to make progress throughout the summer and completion toward the end of the year. I think that's a little bit unrealistic at this time, but using the template slideshow I had here, I wanted to fill it out as best I could. I don't know what would take place here in December of 23. It's more likely that the amphitheater, if it were to fully round itself out, probably wouldn't finalize until 24, but hopefully early 24 to be able to start to bring in some of the different acts and usage of the facility at that time. So this is maybe a little bit hopeful, but we can certainly strive toward that. And a lot of it is dependent on the funding and when it's available. And then lastly, as part of this project, it's important to keep in mind that it falls in line with the Westmoreland County Comprehensive Plan that was recently completed, Reimagining Our Westmoreland. The different bullet points in that comprehensive plan, including cultivating arts and entertainment, being a welcoming community, embracing diversity and inclusivity, as well as making parks welcoming and accessible. So it checks a lot of the boxes in the county's plan. Obviously, being a big community in Westmoreland County, it would be a big project here for us to be able to complete and execute upon. I think it would meet the goals of the county's overall plan. Lastly, as part of the study that was completed or the survey that was sent out, there are some other aspects of the project that could be completed along the way in a phase 4 or beyond. And some of those include potentially incorporating a snow tubing area. That was something that the community responded to in the survey a year or so ago, a couple years ago, as well as trails and picnic areas. There are some flat areas up above the seating area that's pictured here on this slide. So we may be able to incorporate some small picnic areas, picnic groves, things like that, as well as the trails that would go up into those areas. And then expanded parking for the overall park itself. This would provide some parking on this portion of the park, but also, as I had mentioned, it may proceed up toward the playground and splash pad area and the Miracle Field area, providing a little bit more parking for the park itself, as well as adding maybe another exit to the park, depending on how we gate the structure itself. So that's pretty much all. I tried to go through that, I guess, as quickly and efficiently as possible as we're on the 4th presentation of the evening, but certainly open to answering any questions. Mr. Morris and Mr. Payano will also be able to maybe help answer any outstanding questions from council.
Okay. Council?
You really put that together well.
Yeah, great plan.
Appreciate that, and also Bill for the work from your crew.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there an estimated maintenance or recurring cost with a facility like this?
I don't know of one offhand. There certainly will be ongoing maintenance. I can say that coming from a community that had an amphitheater, it wasn't too substantial. It was rather routine, minor repairs, things like that. It would, I guess, depend upon the level of installation. If we were to install, for instance, sound or electrical equipment, stereo systems, those are things that require more ongoing maintenance. They get weathered, things like that. But as I understand it, this project consists of more along the lines of just the shell of the amphitheater itself, allowing the different bands or users of the facility to bring their own equipment. And if that's the case, there probably wouldn't be too much ongoing maintenance and not much more than we would have in other aspects of the park.
Is the lawn seating going to stay lawn seating, or is there some kind of plan to change that?
As I understand it right now, the plan is to have simply lawn seating. In talking with Bill and viewing the site recently, I don't think there's a long to modify that or to make any installations. I mean, I could maybe let him speak to that a little bit more appropriately.
In front of the band stage will be where there'll be concrete or asphalt placed to where seating could be available through whether you bring chairs or whatnot. The other seating will be tiered in levels to where you'll be comfortable to sit and be able to view what you need to view. Right now, it's nothing as far as stadium seating at this time.
Question. Maybe I just missed it on the site plan, but is there going to be some sort of a sidewalk that is paved down, looks like maybe, but that's paved down to that concrete pad in case, like wheelchair access?
Yes, it'll come down to where the parking would be for handicapped.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of it, but
I think maybe this picture.
It might be on there, but I just can't tell for sure if that's what I'm looking at.
Yes, as you can see
Where
right
it says
above
ramp
where it
and then-
says handicap, there's a
Yep.
concrete sidewalk.
Okay.
That'll give you access to handicap, the parking, plus the food truck area.
Okay, and so that's coming right down to the ramps and where the platform is. Okay.
Correct, and then concrete will go all around the amphitheater to the bathroom areas and also to the walkways to the parking on the opposite side.
So what is the expected seating capacity?
I think we were looking 700, Jim?
For the paved area? Yes,
So-
3,000 for the entire area.
Thank you.
And is there,
Whatever you can fill in the various tiers. The idea was to keep it as natural as you could.
is the parking there adequate?
There'll be enough parking throughout the park.
Because I know I attended the FRAA, and it was crazy, the parking.
It'll depend on the venue. We're looking at more of a smaller venue for these things. The community day / concert, that'll probably be more of an issue with parking. But for what Recreations proposes, more of smaller venues, I think the site will handle it adequately.
And that's why we're looking at that expanded parking for Phase 4 and beyond if we can get the funding right.
Yeah, and there's other parking in the area. You have the dog park, which is right across the street. You have the
Clubhouse.
lot for the Miracle Field.
Clubhouse.
Miracle Field. So there are parking within easy distance of the facility.
That's assuming we want to walk more than we do at Blue Spruce.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so obviously, it's cut off here, but this is the area we're envisioning for the amphitheater. So the parking, the driveway will kind of come up this direction, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there'll be parking near the rotary.
Right where your cursor is, there'll be a larger parking lot in that area.
And then certainly these parking areas still exist here. So, and that will tie into the amphitheater area itself. So people won't have to cross the roadway. They'll be in the park grounds if they park at any of those locations.
You turn back, Mr. Nestico, to the slide you were on last.
The engineered one?
Yes, which showed the print.
I can do that. For right now, I'll pull this one.
Yeah, that
Okay. For the area, this road will eventually come back up through the top of the park here. And the next phase of this would be a larger parking lot that right now is proposed for Public Works to build, not this year, but the year after. We anticipate taking this road more of a loop around here.
So the
Where the
land's
cursor-
there, the land's there to add parking as we would see
Yes.
fit.
On top of this site is a beautiful
I want you
piece
to
of
know what I
land
think
that
I know
would, if in the future here, turn out to be a beautiful place for larger pavilions,
Let me see here.
more of your 150 person pavilions. And this road will continue to that. So offshoot of this area will be parking. That'll be done before, of course, this area is developed, but.
Sorry, I'm trying to find a good one to help here, but
I think we get the idea.
okay. Are there any other questions? Certainly, that would be a good time to try to help answer them.
Okay. Great put together on this. This is really great. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Well, I think the next question we answered is, do we prepare the specifications and move forward?
Council? Let's say it this way, are there any objections to moving forward?
I'd like more time to consider.
Okay. Well, maybe then we will digest the information and then we'll have a agenda item at the next meeting for further discussion on this. Is that all right? Okay, I think that'll be the plan. Okay.
Do that. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Nesco. And again, that was a really great presentation. I can tell time went into this, so thank you.
Sure.
That brings us to our council action items. We will begin with 13A. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to consider authorization to advertise ordinance number 1063-22, an ordinance vacating an unopened portion of a 40-foot right-of-way situated along Route 22 between contiguous parcels bearing tax map numbers 4914020001 and 4914030125 in the municipality of Murrysville.
Second.
So Jason and Mac. Mike?
Sure. As council should be aware, we discussed this previously. This is a parcel located on Route 22 that has a 40-foot right-of-way dissecting two parcels owned by the same property owner. This item and item 13B are part of the same matter, in which we would be asking council to vacate the 40-foot right-of-way, and the subsequent motion would then be to execute an agreement with the property owner allowing for emergency vehicle access to Duff Park in the event that a situation arose. So the property owner is asking for vacating this right-of-way. This is a right-of-way that the municipality has not used nor adopted in the time that it has existed. Never had a need to utilize it nor bring emergency vehicles into this location. After staff has reviewed it, it does meet the criteria for vacating and adopting the agreement.
Okay. Questions or concerns from council? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. It is unanimous. That brings us to the sister motion, 13B.
I make a motion to consider authorization to advertise ordinance number 1064-22, an ordinance adopting a mutual easement and right-of-way agreement for emergency vehicle access to Duff Park and the Westmoreland Heritage Trail along the vacated 40-foot right-of-way situated along Route 22 between contiguous parcels bearing tax number or tax map number 49-14-02-0-011 and 49-14-03-0-125 in the municipality of Murrysville.
Second.
Thank you, Mac and Jamie. Obviously, this is about the same. Any questions or concerns?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. It is unanimous. That brings us to 13C. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the joint petition and stipulation of settlement of Issa Fayez under Tax Assessment Appeal Number 3618 of 2020 for the property located at tax map number 49-14-01-0-206, bearing a physical address of 3859 to 3861 Franklin Town Court.
Thank you, Jamie and Tony. Mike?
Yes, this is a tax assessment appeal request. The assessed value contemplated in this stipulation of settlement came about by through the purchase price of $145,000, and that is what ultimately led to the stipulation numbers as set forth in this appeal agreement. So I'd ask council to consider approving this assessment appeal.
Okay. Questions or concerns from council? Pretty standard. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. It is unanimous. That brings us to 13D. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to consider approval for the joint petition and stipulation of settlement of George A. and Ashley S. Prokopik. Tax assessment, appeal number 3619 of 2020 for the property located at tax map number 49-10-16-0131, bearing a physical address of 2101 Noble Street. Court.
Second.
Thank you, Tony and Jamie. Mike?
Yes, just like the prior item. This is a stipulation of settlement. For this property, the fair market value number was obtained by an appraisal that came out to a $372,000 value. So that was the dollar amount utilized when contemplating this settlement with the property owner.
Okay, questions or concerns from council?
I just have one question. Sure. On our briefing that we got, in the issues statement, it's spelled N-O-B-L-E, and in the background information findings facts, it's spelled N-O-B-I-L-E. I just want to confirm which is the correct spelling.
I can certainly check on that for you. I apologize, I'm not too familiar with the roads
I think
offhand.
N-O-B-L-E is the correct one, but I just want to confirm it.
Yeah, may as well make sure.
With an I? Okay. And I think the I may have been added in there because I believe it exists on the county GIS system for some reason. So sometimes those street names aren't always accurately spelled.
Okay.
So just to confirm, it's Noble, the way Noble is always spelled? Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. It is unanimous. That brings us to 13E. Can I have a motion, please?
Consider authorization of an advertisement to accept nominations for Murrysville Council Volunteer of the Year.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie and Mac. Mike?
As I understand it, this is a long-standing item. At the end of each year, council opens the floor for nominations for Volunteer of the Year, so staff would ask the council approve this item so we can get the advertisement placed.
Okay. Happens once a year, but any questions or concerns? Hearing none, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes. That brings us to 13F. Can I have a motion, please?
To consider authorization to advertise for various board and commission openings for the 2023 calendar year.
Thank you, Tony and Jason. Mike?
Yes, another formality, a year-end formality to ensure that we are adequately filling all of the positions on the various boards and committees within the municipality.
Okay, questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. It is unanimous. Our next item is 15A under engineering. Can I have a motion, please?
Consider a motion to enter into an excess maintenance agreement with EQT Production Company to utilize 2.32 miles of Murrysville roads for the purpose of plugging an existing well.
Second.
Thank you, Mac and Jamie. Mike?
Yes, this is a request from EQT to utilize our roadways to plug a conventional gas well. The amount of traffic expected is 21 truck trips. Historically speaking, that's a low number relative to the requests that are similar to this. So they will post a bond in the amount of $29,000 for utilizing the roadway. For any reason there were to be issues or damage caused to the roadway, then we would have the bond in place to protect our interests.
Okay. Questions or concerns from council? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you, unanimous. Do we have any old business this evening? Any new business from anyone? Okay. We are going to have an executive session to talk about some personnel matters. I'm guessing there won't be any action items coming out of that?
No, there will not be.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, can I please have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Jamie and Jamie, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.